10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, Cancer, and welcome to your monthly video horoscope for the month of December. Before we get started, I'd like to wish you a very happy season, regardless of how you celebrate the season, or regardless of if you celebrate. Let's start over. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, Cancer, and welcome to your December horoscope. Before we get into things, I'd like to wish you a very happy season, regardless of how you celebrate this season or if you celebrate this season. I'm wishing you a very happy season and a very prosperous new year. Very powerful month, December. We're going to get into that here in a moment, a little more of some personal blah, blah, blah. I don't know what to say. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, Cancer, and welcome to your monthly video horoscope for the month of December. Before we get started, I'd like to wish you a very happy season and a very prosperous new year, regardless of how you celebrate this season or if you celebrate this season. Here's wishing you a very productive, happy, and blessed season. Before we get started, I'd also like to communicate that it's good to listen to these horoscopes for both your sun sign and also your rising sign. You'll probably find the horoscopes being even more intensively accurate if you listen for your rising sign. If you don't know your rising sign, you can go to my website under the Astrological Services link. There's a link for a free chart calculator, and you can just enter your birth information. You'll need your time of birth. If you don't have that, it's not really possible to calculate the rising sign. So if you can't calculate the rising sign, just stick with your sun sign. But if you can, go to the website. There's a link down the page below where the description is, and you can go to that link and you can calculate your birth chart and listen for your rising sign. We're dealing with a very powerful month this month, Cancer. Since 2011, there's been a very powerful interaction going on between two specific planets. And those planets are Pluto and Uranus. They've been forming an angle known as a square, which is a tense angle. It creates tension, but that tension ultimately brings opportunity. Tension brings release. These two planets will be making an exact aspect again this month, about the 15th. And then for the last time for several decades in March of 2015. Let's talk a little bit about what this is all about, some of the other aspects that are present this month, and how this impacts you as a Cancer. It's only words, or so they say, but words can have a very profound impact on the course of your life, as can your thoughts. And there's communication that very much needs to happen this month. And in that communication happening, there are probably some very blunt truths that need to come out in the process because two parties, several parties, however many parties, have kind of been keeping the facade up. And that facade isn't working. Things aren't getting anywhere. And some change needs to come into the equation. As a matter of fact, there's probably been a lot of change for you over the course of the last several years within the way you convey yourself and within the way that you interact with other people. This is tied in specifically with this Pluto-Uranus energy. Pluto is in your house of relationships. Uranus is in the house of career. We call it career on one level. It's also, more importantly, karma and the things that the individual holds to the highest level, things that are sacred to you. So these two planets very powerfully interacting with each other over the course of the last several years, changing the way that you think, changing the way that you project yourself to other people, because when we're dealing with the 7th house, which is the relationship house, we're dealing with a mirror. we're dealing with how you take what is inside of you and project it externally, because that's going to affect the type of people that you attract into your life. So are you following where this thread is going? The more honest you can be with yourself, the more honest you're going to hopefully be with others, right? The more honest you are with others, the more honest you're going to have to be with yourself. So there are some very deep changes that come into action this month. And part of that process involves taking a look at your relationship with another individual, but also very much about taking a look at yourself. And we start the month off on the 1st. We've got several aspects we're going to cover. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break them down into little sections. Let's talk about the first week, the 1st to the 7th. We've got Mars forming a sextile with Saturn. We'll talk about some of these individually. We've got Jupiter forming a harmonious angle with Venus, the Sun forming a harmonious angle with Uranus, Mars shifting signs into Aquarius, and then we've got a full moon in Gemini. Right? So what's this all about? Well, let's talk about Mars first, right? Mars is making its last little rush through your relationship houses. It's going to be forming a harmonious angle with Saturn. And Saturn's in a section of the sky that's called Anuradha. Anuradha deals on one level with balance in relationships. So this is saying that there's a breakthrough that's on offer for you. But that breakthrough is going to take some work over the course of the month. Part of what's going to be involved in that process is, as I was saying before, taking a deep look at things, but it kind of gets initiated and started by facing some resistance. We've got Jupiter in a section of Leo that's called Maga. That's about self-esteem on one level, because this is your 2nd house. It's also how you express yourself on many levels. And it's forming a harmonious angle with Venus, which is going to be in the section of your chart that on one level can deal with conflicts, stress, health. We're not going to get into all those things because primarily a lot of this is taking place within the field of relationships for you. And Venus will be in Mula. Venus very deeply affects relationships. It's the planet of relationships. Whenever we're dealing with Mula energy, there is a powerful surge of putting energy towards something. Perhaps having some tension, some stress within a relationship, your interaction with another individual, and there's some pride that's involved in the equation. But there's going to need to be a little bit of humility if there's going to be a breakthrough and if there's going to be any progress in the discussions. And this Jupiter trine with Venus tends to suggest that that breakthrough can happen. But first, it's going to happen by meeting with some resistance and recognizing, you know what, this really isn't working in this way anymore. And we need an opportunity for a change to come into being. And how can we bring that change into being? Coinciding with that aspect, you've got the Sun forming a harmonious angle with Uranus. And part of what's going on with this, let's touch on this a little more deeply. There is an insight, a bit of wisdom that comes to you that helps you to release an area of your life that has been, I want to use the word congested or stuck in a state of limbo for quite a period of time. And as this is coinciding with the Jupiter-Venus trine, there is a breakthrough that's based upon this insight. It's as if you're able to take a step back from this relationship at the same time that you're meeting with that brick wall, and you have an insight that brings some change into the equation, where you're able to balance both the things that are important to you and the things that are important to another individual. In addition to this, on the career level, this can deal with a breakthrough in terms of your career, whatever it is that you're doing for a living, hard work that you're putting out, the strength that you're putting into something, finally having a bit of a breakthrough and setting some wheels in motion that really change some things in a very positive manner in terms of your career. As Mars enters Aquarius later in that week, some change, transformation, recognizing that a change is important, perhaps even a change of career towards something that's better and more vibrant and has more to offer you. But on the level of relationships, it's recognizing that these changes need to be put in motion. Then on the 6th, we've got a full moon in a section of Gemini that's called Mrigashira. Mrigashira will, on one level, deal with the concept of dissatisfaction. what's driving you, what's propelling you, is the fact that you don't want things to return to the way which they might have been previously, which was not really a very helpful way to your situation. And you're looking for fulfillment, something greater in your life, something greater within your personal relationships. And you don't want to go back to the past. You want things to move forward, and things very much can move forward. The Sun and Mercury all this month are traveling in close proximity to each other. Whenever you have the Sun conjuncting Mercury, on some levels it disrupts the energy of Mercury, but it also brings a level of insight into the areas that it impacts. So we're going to kind of break away from the concept of relationships, even though we'll go back over that, because there's also some other levels that this is impacting in your life. If there's been some stress in your life, if there's been a conflict, so that's part of the relationship thing again, I recognize, or if there's been a state of ill health that you've been experiencing, there can finally be a breakthrough, because the Sun conjuncting Mercury will bring a level of insight, and that will be coinciding with Jupiter pretty much sitting still in the sky. Occasionally the planets apparently change direction. I say apparently because it just deals with how we're seeing it here on the planet. Sometimes it can seem like a planet is moving backwards. Obviously it's not moving backwards. Or sometimes it looks like the planet's moving forward, which it always is. But Jupiter is getting ready to station and turn retrograde for the next several months. When it's retrograde, it looks like it's moving backwards. When a planet stations, it becomes a very powerful planet. Jupiter is all about expansion, wisdom. So if you look at some of the lessons of the past, integrate that wisdom. If you're willing to let the shield of your pride down so that you can open your heart and allow the progress to be established and move forward, there's quite a lot on offer to you. About the 10th, you've got Venus moving into Capricorn, your relationship house. That's good on many levels. That means any difficulty that you're experiencing in relationship, even though it may take a little bit of hard work, challenges in order to create those changes, Venus can begin to heal some of the rough spots. Venus is all about refinement. And it's also about your values within a relationship. Mercury on the 12th forms a harmonious angle with Jupiter as well. Mercury is in your 6th house. As I was saying before, sometimes the 6th house can deal with conflict. And when we're dealing with Mercury, there can be the speaking of some words that are, well, seemingly harsh. You know, I'm not saying that to frighten you. I'm just saying that to bring your awareness to that. That coincides 2 days later with the Sun forming the same angle with Jupiter, because these two planets are traveling together. So there's going to be some things that you yourself are going to have to face. And probably the way that that's going to come into being is through having a discussion with somebody else where you're having a disagreement. And because you're having that disagreement, they say something that makes you take a look at something. You say something that makes them take a look at something. Ideally, if there's maturity in your connection, both parties can come away from that and take a deeper look at what's going on. But there's going to need to be a willingness to face the truth rather than hiding from the truth. At the same time that the Sun is forming this harmonious angle with Jupiter, you've got Venus forming a harmonious angle with Neptune. Venus is in Purva Ashadha. Purva Ashadha means, on one level, is about being real and being authentic and not being superficial. Neptune in Shatabisha can bring a crisis and a certain level of drama, but upon encountering that drama, there is a new level of understanding revealed to you that wasn't available before. Then on the 15th, here comes the big one, and I'm going to throw several aspects together. We've got Uranus and Pluto forming their exact square. About 5 days later, you've got Mercury forming a harmonious angle with Neptune. You've got Venus forming a tense angle with Uranus and Venus conjuncting Pluto. So for all intents and purposes, Venus is acting as an agent that's, or a catalyst to set these changes that Uranus and Pluto are bringing in motion. A lot of this is happening, this Mercury aspect with Neptune is happening with Mercury from Purva Ashadha, Venus from Purva Ashadha, Pluto in Purva Ashadha, Uranus is over in Revati, which deals with being in an in-between phase, right? And Uranus is very radical and revolutionary. So Purva Ashadha on one level is going to deal with the concept of pulling the gloves off. There's no hiding behind a particular face or putting the armor up. Some very challenging things might need to be faced, but what you'll find upon going into those areas that are seemingly vulnerable is that there's a lot of power that's released from doing so. And that power that's released enables you to actually create a change, whether that change is just kind of separating yourself from this connection, be it a connection with the boss, which is possible because your career house is going to be activated too, and trying to set something else in motion for yourself, or whether that change is just looking at how you're interacting with another individual and deciding to make that change internally, or them deciding to make that change internally. That depends upon a lot of different factors, which I wouldn't really be able to cover in just a sun sign horoscope. We'll talk about that later. But needing to take a look at a few areas of your life in order to make some very profound changes. And one of those key areas is relationships. Going back to the beginning, we were talking about words or thoughts. And the more real you are, the more you can create the contents of the less real you are, the less open you are about what it is that you actually need or what it is that you actually want, both with yourself and another, the more difficult it is for that to come into being. So this month is about truth. Difficult truths, lovely truths, and a balance of both really over the course of the month. Moving on towards the end of the month, I want to cover the rest of this too. We've got Mars on the 21st forming a harmonious angle with Uranus. This is really powerful because on the same day, Uranus stations direct. It's been in retrograde motion for the last several months. When Uranus is retrograde, well, let's talk about Uranus first of all. It has a tendency to overturn things. It's the planet of revolution. So we go through a personal revolution where we're overturning the status quo of the ways that we've acted within ourselves or the ways that we've looked at a particular thing within our life. And now that Uranus is going direct, all the changes that we've done for the last several months can begin to be activated in our life externally. And what makes this Mars-Uranus aspect very powerful is Uranus is in Aries, which is ruled by Mars, and Mars will be in Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus, by the new system of rulership. And this makes that aspect very powerful. They're cooperating with each other on a very intensive level. Mars will be in Dhanishta. And Dhanishta is about prospering just by being natural, just by marching to the beat of your own drum. So marching to the beat of your own drum this month, perhaps even pounding that drum a bit loud because we're dealing with Uranus after all, is going to take that state where you've been stuck and begin to allow some changes to come into being. And then towards the end of the month, on the 22nd, a new moon in your relationship house that gives new hope after the difficulties that have been experienced in connection with this relationship. And then on the 23rd, you've got Saturn. Saturn's been in Scorpio for the last couple of years. It's moving into Sagittarius, your 6th house. It's going to be some hard work necessary. Hard work, dedication, passion to the path ahead, as long as you're willing to devote yourself fully to the task of creating changes both within yourself, within your relationships, and also, I would say, especially within your career, then you've got a lot of astrological energy packing a powerful punch right behind you this month, Cancer. I'd like to mention, if you'd like a little more information on how these aspects will affect you personally, because when we're talking about astrology, we're dealing with more than just your sun sign. You have several other planets in different placements in your chart, which will be interacting with these planets. So to get a little more specific, a personal consultation of some sort is obviously helpful. And I do one-to-one consultations, written reports, video reports, all available through the astrological services page of my website. In addition to that, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube video yet, you might consider doing so. You'll be updated every time there's a new video released, everything from monthly video horoscopes to full moon and new moon videos. And this month, sometime early in the month, hopefully, an interview with another fellow Vedic astrologer, talking about Vedic astrology and how we use Vedic astrology and how we interact with our clients. that's going to do it for your monthly video horoscope for December, Cancer. Until next month, wishing you a very happy season, very prosperous new year, and please do take very good care of yourself.